talking about teachers and teachers losing jobs. It always gets me distracted. My daughter's friend is a teacher. She teaches fourth grade in New Orleans, and she had a review last week. And she had her fourth graders in different groups around the room doing history things because she's a history teacher. She thought everything went great. Later on, she found out that one group had figured out a way to make other parts of their group say the N-word. They would say the beginning of a word and look at the other person to make them finish the word. And with finishing the word, they were saying bad word, which is totally unacceptable in New Orleans, even more so than other places. So Casey's review didn't go as well as she thought because there were little fourth graders back there doing things like that. When you're a teacher boy, those students do all sorts of stuff to affect you. So that made me get distracted about what Team Foundation Server is because I was thinking about reviews and all that great stuff, and Mr. Eagle leaving made me get sidetracked. So what are we going to do? We're going to talk about version control. I'm going to download this PowerPoint. Version control system. Some of you have already used GitHub. They are interchangeable. So you can see me have that happen where I interchange them. TFS is Microsoft version control system. GitHub is the open source version control system. We'll talk about how to compare and why we might want to pick one or the other as we're thinking about these things. So some of you have a ton of experience already with version control. Some of you might not have any. That's okay. So Team Foundation Server, it's a Microsoft server product. That means it could run on a Windows server. So I could go to our Microsoft Imagine or whatever they've made it now website, and I could download Windows Server 2016, and I could download TFS, and I could set up my own Team Foundation server, and then I could do version control with my company for all of my programmers and developers. I could do that in-house. I can't do that with GitHub. So remember, there's lots of things with GitHub that TFS can't do. Yes, sir?
I understand, though, that you can set up a private server and run the Git software on it.
I hear there's some things that you can do.
Software, but it's a private server.
There are some things that you can do to try to get away from that cloud-based storage, because some companies don't want all of their company assets saved out in the cloud. So when we're looking at version control system, we're looking at people's code, those are assets, right? And so some companies are going to be a lot more particular than others about having their source code stored on a GitHub server in the cloud. Some people are going to say, no, it must be a server that we control. Whether we control it running TFS or some sort of local GitHub, and I think there's a few other facilities we can use, that's fine. But some companies want it controlled in-house. Now, my story about version control is really not a good story, but it's true. When I worked at Mutual of Omaha, they do things in version maintenance, just like Microsoft does. So if they wanted a bunch of changes, we would change all of those programs across the board, and then they would set up this great giant testing time where we would test all of the systems across the company. So from the time someone bought a policy until the very end of that policy payout, we would run testing through all of those systems. So it was very involved. And Mutual of Omaha usually only implemented changes into their software like once or twice a year because it was such an involved process. So they would spend 6 months, 9 months, or a year making changes to all these programs, and then they would have this big process, and that whole version would be implemented. Well, the guy that sits next to me worked on one program through that whole time and made a bunch of changes to it. And a week or two after the acceptance test was run and everything went into production, they came in and they said, there's a problem with this program with the changes. We need it to be corrected. So he needed to find the source code for that program to fix it. It was lost. The source code was lost. So the source code that was saved by the company, or the last version, was the version before any of his changes. So his whole year's worth of work was gone. There was no record of that version of the program. So he sat down and he started remaking all those changes. That's what he was going to do for the next year. Now that was Mutual of Omaha's way of handling it. Another company might not handle it quite that way if somebody lost a year's worth of work. but that's how they handled it. So part of that problem was because they were not doing good version control at Mutual Omaha. That's why he didn't get fired right away. They knew it was a problem on their end too. He hadn't followed the proper procedures, but that shouldn't have been possible, right? The procedures should have been good enough that they couldn't lose all that work. So that's one reason why we need version control software. We need a place where developers put their software and we keep track of all of their changes. Now, a lot of the stuff in this presentation comes from Microsoft's website, and Microsoft is doing a lot right now with version control. So they have a lot of information available out there in their documentation website. So that's where I got a lot of this because I didn't create it. So what is version control? Version control is software that helps you track changes in software, right? So as you edit code, you're going to tell the version control system to take a snapshot of your files. If you work with Google Docs, you know that as you change something, it gets automatically synchronized with Google, right? They're always staying in sync. That is not the case with a version control system. With a version control system, you must tell it that you want that snapshot to be taken. You want that sync to occur. So it's going to be a manual thing when we check in or push or whatever it is we do to get our files to the server. It's not going to happen automatically. Now, once we make that happen, then the version control system is going to save that snapshot permanently so we can go back to it if we want to. So without version control, you might be a little bit like me as a teacher, and I have this problem. I have the copy of our code from the morning class and the copy of our code from the afternoon class and the copy of our code from the version that I wanted to use for the morning class and the copy of our code from the version that worked. So as a developer, at school, it's okay for me to do that. But if I were working for a company, I wouldn't want to keep multiple copies of my code on my system. I could make a really big mistake, delete the wrong file. Whoops, now I've lost all my changes. Or I could even put the wrong version of something into production and cause all sorts of trouble. So I want to make sure that the version control system is taking care of my code, keeping track, making sure that I won't accidentally use the wrong version. Now, what else can you do? It can do a lot of things. So we can create workflows. With a workflow, I can say that the guy sitting beside me at Mutual of Omaha has to do step 1, then step 2, then step 3. And he must take those 3 steps every time he moves a program into production for it to work. And whenever I create a workflow like that, I am kind of preventing chaos. I'm making sure that everybody follows the same steps and we all get the same thing done at the same time. And that helps a lot, especially if in the past people were all using different tools, things that are incompatible. We'd like to keep them all together, all working together. Next, working with versions, just like we were saying. Every version that I input into my version control system is going to have a description. Did it fix a bug? Did it add a feature? Make sure you're putting good commit messages on stuff that you're committing or checking in. What did it do? Why are you committing this? Was it because you had a bug in this area? Was it because the requirements changed? Those are the things you should be putting in your description. Each version then allows you to follow changes in the code. Instead of me having to open 15 different projects to look at all the different files, I can look at the version control system and see all of the files that were changed. I could restore to a specific version, and I could even use an older version to base some new code on. So if I wanted to, I could start from that earlier system. Now, we can also use version control to code together. We can synchronize all those versions, make sure changes don't conflict with each other. If we have 2 people working on the same code, the version control system is going to give us a warning and say, you 2 people must decide how to merge those changes. It's going to make us do that ourselves, but at least we know there's a problem instead of just stomping on each other. It also will help us keep a history. So every time we save a new version of our code, we're going to have a historical reference to it. We can find out who made changes why and when and all those wonderful things that we need to know. We can roll back. I had a student who went to Nationals for Skills USA for an iOS game. And right at the very end, right before they were going to show it to the judges, they had problems. And they had GitHub, so they were able to roll back to their previous version and continue on like nothing had happened. If they hadn't had GitHub, they would have just been out of the contest because they would have lost all of their stuff. Again, we can base our work off a previous version. And we can automate tasks. This is new stuff with version control. We can set things up so that certain things happen. For example, in TFS, we might want to make certain things happen when somebody checks in a new version. Like we might want a testing script to run, some code analysis to occur, or some sort of deployment, oops, there's a typo there, to happen. And we can have TFS do those automated tasks for us so that we can save time and not have to worry about it. So how are they different, TFS and GitHub? Well, Microsoft owns them both now, right? Because they bought GitHub. So it's not really much different as far as ownership. TFS always had the private server. That's why we see GitHub having the private server now, because Microsoft, you know, that was one of the great benefits of TFS. And they want to, it looks like TFS will eventually go away because Microsoft is moving everything to GitHub. Now, there will still be like a Microsoft shell around GitHub when you're working with Visual Studio. So it'll be a little different than you're working with GitHub in another product or in the command prompt, but either way it'll be fine. Now, other things that are different. When we're using TFS, we use this terminology check in and check out. When you're using GitHub, we use push and pull. GitHub supports branches, which TFS does not. So I would assume that's why we'll be seeing everything moving to GitHub, because it really gives us more capability with those, with the branches. Now, either way though, let me go back for that one last important statement. My highlighter thing just goes all over the place, but this is important. You guys get exposure to both products. While you're in the CIS classes here at OTC, you're going to get exposure to TFS, you're going to get exposure to GitHub. So that's the best of both worlds. Because if anybody asks you if you've ever worked with it, you're going to say, yes, yes, I have. And you know how version control systems work really well. So let's work with it a little bit. Let's open Visual Studio. I'm going to close everything that I've got open or try to. Now, when we're working with TFS, we have some specific workflow tasks that we need to do. So when we first open Visual Studio, we need to either connect to TFS or verify our TFS connection. So to do that, we're not going to have a project open yet. We're just looking at Visual Studio without any sort of open things. We want to find the Team Explorer tool. And if you look at your view menu, you'll see Team Explorer is just the second thing on there right under Solution Explorer. So you know it's pretty important. Now when you open Team Explorer, mine opens over here, Explorer. You can see it next tab, the Solution Explorer. So now I've got my Team Explorer open. When you're looking for Team Explorer or using it, there is a toolbar at the top. And if you click the little home icon, that will always take you to this home Team Explorer screen. Now yours might look a little different than mine because I've connected to TFS and you haven't and all those kinds of things. So the first thing we want to do is connect to TFS. Now you guys are all using your classroom computers, right? If you're using your laptop, get off your laptop, get on the classroom computer because your laptop is a little different. And I want you will get a chance to use your laptop here in a minute. But I'd like you to use the classroom computers this first time, and then we'll switch it up and go to a different computer. so that you can see how things work. So the biggest problem usually that people have is in class, we'll look at how to connect to TFS and get to the Tfs server, and we'll put a project in there. And then when we get home, it's really hard to get connected to it again to get to that project. So today, we're going to try getting a project loaded to TFS, and then we're going to move computers to go find it so that we can hopefully avoid that problem of that happening to you at home when you don't have any help and it's not doing the same thing as it did at school. So in Team Explorer, across the toolbar, find the green plugin. That's the Manage Connections icon. When you click on that, that's going to go to the Connect screen in Team Explorer. I want to click Manage Connections again and choose Connect to a project. Now, if you notice, there are some TFS references and GitHub references on my Team Explorer screen. And that's where we can kind of have some problems because we can end up with things in GitHub that need to be in TFS and vice versa. So that's where we're always going to check where we are. Now, my Connect screen is sitting here just going on and on forever. It actually has two areas to the screen. Up here at the top, where it says add an account, this is your Office 365 account. So if you log on using your OTC email up here, you'll be connected to a cloud-based storage. That's fine, you can, whatever, but that's not what we're using. So what we're going to be using is this bottom half of the screen for TFS. So the first thing to do is click this link, Add Tfs Server. Now the little text box should open up for you to enter the server URL. I'm going to give you some instructions on how to do this, don't worry, but they still could be adjustable. Let's try it, https:// and I have that written up here if you can read it, //cisteam.otc.edu. Now, after the edu, I'm going to type :447, then /TFS. And I'm going to click Add. This takes so long, I've made videos at home to send to the networking people so that they would know how long it takes. It still takes this long. Do it? It didn't connect?
Mm-hmm.
All sorts of things, huh? So in the morning class, if we took off the port, the :447, well, we can make it work. So try that. I'm not going to change our instructions though, because you need that at home.
Leave the TFS.
Leave the TFS.
So it'd be
What about the
OTC.
colon?
No colon.
Okay.
So it would be otc.edu/TFS.
Yes. And like I said, of course, it won't work the same at home. Sorry about that. Does that work?
Yeah.
That went in?
Yeah.
Ooh, and faster too. Now it's, well, at least it's went onto the list fast. It has something to do with how they have the domain name services configured on campus versus off campus. That's why you'll have some real issues with it off campus.
Well, it's like use damp in Martha's classroom. You use the 88 port to have the.
To what?
In Martha's class, use damp. If you probably have it set for something else.
If this is a different port.
That's what I'm saying. They might have the 447 reserved for something else.
The port is, the 447 port is a TCP/IP
Oh, okay.
port, not a port number.
That's from the credentials and that's not authorized access.
Are you on your screen like that?
What a good question. I bet on the employee account.
Okay, I can't get in my.
So here's that problem that you can take over and talk to those people. You have to log into the same account. See? I would have popped that one forever. I always forget that it's the student account. So log into your student account, but then you need to send the help desk an email. Please put down about CFS with my employee account so that I don't have to use my student account because you can't. Because they tell you guys, don't use your student account, but then we don't set up your employee account.
I think it's merged.
I don't know. I don't know why they make it so hard.
It just seems a lot easier.
I think that it's a price you have to pay to be an employee. You just have to deal with it.
Being an employee is so good.
Yeah, it's just so great.
For the employees, you don't have that issue.
So great. Okay, do you see your stuff? Do you see your name? I got to find mine. Mine is down in here. You want to click on the folder that has the $sign, the CIS150 folder that has the $sign. Yeah, and connect. And if you notice, the drop down on connect gives you another connect.
What?
And connect why?
I don't know. I just always have to check to be like, was there something? Nope, nothing else.
Connect to Blue or connect to
You
Blue?
can, yeah, there you go.
But
You
where are
got
we
your-
trying to connect to?
You're connecting to your CIS team server.
Yeah, you're non-existent, Mike.
Okay, now, your team
This one?
explorer should look like mine. Does it look like this pretty much? You should see your team
Oh,
explorer
look at it
up
on
here
screen.
at the top,
No,
that you're connected
it's
to
got
it.
the $sign in it.
All this other stuff, everything look good? Does it all look all right? All right, let's look at Source Control Explorer. The Source Control Explorer will show you all of the files that you have in TFS. So I connected to my CIS150 folder. If I expand that, I can see all of the different project folders that I have inside there. And when I look at these, I notice some things. First of all, the grayed out projects are projects that are on TFS, but they haven't been copied to my local workstation. I wouldn't be able to update the source code for all of these grayed out projects. This one that says Hello World TFS, this one that's bright, it has been copied to my local workstation. So I would be able to change it. We don't make changes to our programs directly on the TFS server. We have to copy them to our local machine. Now, one thing that might get me is over here on your Team Explorer, right under this Team Foundation server, you have something that shows you a local workstation thing that has a button that says Map and Get.
Yep.
I want you to click on that, click Map and Get. And what that's going to do is establish your local folder where if you say you want to get things from TFS, it's going to copy those items from the TFS server to this local folder. Now, if you notice by default, it's on the C drive and it's putting you in the users folder. That's fine because we're not going to use code from this folder. It's just a temporary location on this computer to put that stuff. Our permanent location will always be on TFS.
If you click advanced on that,
Mhm.
it gives you another advanced button.
Does it?
You can have advanced,
Some
advanced.
really quality development in the Team
That's
Explorer.
advanced.
That's awesome. Okay, so we've connected to the server. We've told the server a place to copy code to on our local workstation if we ask for it. So we've made this connection now between the two. Let's create a new project. And this new project will be the first one that we'll save on TFS. So I'm going to use File, New, Project, just like before. But I want to make sure, after I name my project and everything, that I check this box over here that says Add to Source Control. Now we can add a project to source control later. We don't have to check that box. But if we check it while we're creating the project, it will automatically get marked to be managed by source control. Yes, sir?
I'm noticing under location, you're using the default source/repos. Do we need to be sure to use that, or does that literally not matter?
It only matters in how it's mapping to your local workstation. So if you use that root folder, then it will copy everything in your TFS folders to that local workstation space. So that's really all it's doing, is connecting that map.
But like, it's not going to throw a fit if my default is some other folder.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Might make you map again. Okay, so I'm going to create my project, and I want this to be Hello World Tfs 102. I'm going to leave my solution name the same. Everything looks good. I've got my checkbox checked to add it to source control. So I'm ready to click OK and create my project. Now, because I'm creating this project under source control, TFS pops up and says, where would you like to save this project in your source control? Well, I think I'll make a new folder under my CIS150 folder. I'll click that button, make new folder, and I'll call it class work 102. Now, TFS does some weird things besides those drop downs. If you sat here and did a bunch of work and created a bunch of new folders, it won't save any of them. The only one it's going to save is the one you actually put this new project into. So the only way TFS saves a folder is if it's actually ready to put some content into that folder. So you can decide in your mind how you want to organize TFS, but you can't actually organize it until it's time. Like no work before it's time. So I want to put this new project into my classwork 102 folder. I'm going to click OK. Now it's a really small project. I'm going to make it, come on project, zoom in for me. Still thinking can't zoom in. Well, all I really want to do in here is a console.writeLine. And we'll say, hello world from TFS. And my wheel has died or something, it won't let me.
Make sure it works. Debug it.
Yeah, make sure it works. Okay.
This thing.
I'll do just a read. Very good. Yay, it works. All right, I want to check it in. Now, whenever we're looking at a project, there are lots of ways that we could check it in. We can use a lot of different controls. Your team menu has a lot of the TFS settings available. Kind of more of like the project level. Your file menu has some settings available, like adding to source control, checking in, etc. We also can use Solution Explorer and right-click to have access to a lot of those controls. Now, when you look at this project in Solution Explorer, notice the little green plus marks. Those are saying that this stuff is under source code control. Those new icons that we have.
I don't have those.
You don't have those?
Where is that?
On Solution Explorer?
I have the little plus sign.
Uh-huh.
No.
You don't have them? I didn't have them this morning either.
No.
Let's get it checked in and we won't worry about it too much.
Mine just has the solution icon.
Yeah, right-click on Solution and let's choose Check In.
I do not have a check-in for it, option for it when I right-click on it.
Okay. Now, everybody that does, type in your check-in comment. We'll say this is the initial check-in for Hello World. And if you don't, hang on so we can figure out what's going on.
There's like a little lock symbol.
Once you're checked in,
Yeah.
that's what you should see when it's checked in. Now it's going to tell me it's going to check in all these items. I'm going to let it do it. And then looking at Solution Explorer, just like he's saying, you should see the little blue lock icon now. Which got,
Yep. I didn't have the plus icon, but I have the lock button.
Now, if you did, you guys listen to me. If any of those steps did not work, you have to start over. Okay? This is one of those times where if you don't say when it didn't work, you're going to have to go back and start over. So that means you've got to close this project, make sure you're connected to TFS, and start a new project. Because otherwise it's going to be connected to GitHub, and it's going to take us forever to get it fixed. So instead of taking forever to get it fixed, we're just going to do it again. So make sure that you let me know if there's a problem.
That's not important.
That's right.
This is like having my Solution Explorer.
No, that's all you have in your solutions entry in Team Explorer. Open Solution Explorer. It's a good one. Everything's good. It's just hiding from me.
So as long as we have the locks next to it.
You're good. Got locked? All locked up? Yeah. Good. All good? Not a problem. We can do it over again, no problem. That's why we want to do the Hello World one. Because it's easy to do again. All good? No, you got nothing. What's this? This is different. He's working on that other. Yours okay? Yours okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna work on the one development.
It's all okay. Okay, if you've got Blue License Solution Explorer and you're good, go to Source Control Explorer and see if you can see it. You have to take the comment. Perfect. You click your check-in button. So where do we find Source Control Explorer? Go to Team Explorer. And then on Team Explorer, on your home screen, find that Source Control Explorer. Team Explorer is kind of like a whole nother tool here. Now you should, if you expand your CIS150 folder, you should see your new Hello World TFS project. And we would be able to see that at home now. So if you were at home, you would connect to TFS, come here to Source Control Explorer, and using this Source Control Explorer, you would choose Get Latest Version. Get Latest Version is always going to give you the most recent version that's on TFS. So we just want to get used to doing that. You get to class, open Visual Studio, connect to TFS, do your Get Latest Version so that all the work you've done at home is here on your school computer. Do work, check it all in at school. You go home, connect to TFS, do your Get Latest Version, and you should have all of the updates that you did at school. Yes, sir?
Is there a way to set it up to where you can have branches?
Is there a way where you can set it up to have branches?
No, you already said that TFS doesn't do that.
I guess you could make a whole different folder. And just,
Yeah, you can make a whole nother folder, and you could do that online. Yes, sir?
a minute ago we established we didn't need the 447 bit
Right.
because it was on the school.
But you might need it at home.
Would I need it, because I have my laptop here and I'm trying to do it now because I may as well, would I need it in, because
I
it's
don't
on the
know, you might have to try, because people had laptop issues this morning, and I am not actually sure which way worked for them.
well, let's
But they did get something to work. Okay, so what would we do if we wanted to do some other things with folder management? Like we need to delete some things. Like I've got a project in the wrong folder and TFS won't let me take care of it. Actually, what will happen is you'll keep deleting it here and it'll tell you it's deleted, and then it'll just show up again because it lies and it didn't really delete it. So what we can do is use the web portal. Do you see this link in Team Explorer to the CIS team website? Let's go there. Yeah, it's a Microsoft product, by the way. So it'll open it.
It's legitimately Internet Explorer.
Just,
It's like Edge or something, isn't it?
yeah, Edge is going away too.
Okay, so this is the portal to TFS.
It already is.
Right up here is my project folder. If I click on code, I'm going to see all of the folders and stuff that I have loaded to TFS. Just like with GitHub, when I'm looking at the GitHub cloud-based view, I could download a package or a folder if I wanted to. I could add a new file. I could upload some files. So I could put things on TFS manually. Last summer, those really quick, the 5-week classes that we offer for C#1, there were a lot of people in the class that were out of the country, and they were all using MacBooks. And the Mac software doesn't handle TFS very well. So a lot of them had to end up manually uploading files to TFS. They were able to get it to work. So we can get it to work somehow. So if you want to create folders, delete things, move things around, use this web portal. So this is going to be a much better place for you to do that than try to use the Visual Studio interface. That makes sense? So you can't access the branches, but you can make your folders and things the way you want. So whenever we first start using TFS, it can sometimes cause some trouble for people. And our very first assignment with TFS is going to be an exception handling one, and it's important too. So I want you to get an opportunity to really explore some of these things. So we're going to do a TFS treasure hunt to find your assignment. Yay. So go to Canvas in looking at week 10, your TFS treasure hunt assignment. You're going to click on the link that says the TFS treasure hunt. Now what you're going to do are follow the instructions here. You're going to be creating a new project that you're going to save in TFS, and then you're going to move computers. When you get to your different computer, you're going to try to bring that project up to update it so that you can feel really comfortable about going home and getting all of that stuff done. Now I want you to work with somebody else because otherwise it's just too much. So let's see, I want you to be close to them because we are going to switch computers. So you guys, let's have you two work together. You're pretty close. And then let's see on this end. I think that we'll just do you 3 and you 3. You 3 is fine. That song treats better than 2 or something like that. And so what you're going to do is follow the instructions here. And as you get to the end, it will tell you what to do so that you can move on to the next level. So I'm just going to sit up here and wait for people to start raising their hands because the first level wants you to raise your hand when you're done. Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, you're on it. Yeah, when you get to, as you move to level 2. Yeah. And then that way you guys can work together and know what you need to do with computers.